Get to the point. Okay, so the topic is relationships, right? And like I said, it's a very broad topic, a very interesting topic that gets people anxious, gets people excited, gets people anticipating, gets people nervous, some fearful. I don't know which category you fall in individually and how you feel about it, but it's one of those topics, yeah? So what do I want to say about it? And we'll save most of the time for your questions. Please do write your questions. You might not feel comfortable asking on the mic. Write them down. If you send your papers, we'll read them out. They won't know who wrote the question. If your question is too out there, we'll skip over it. I'm just kidding. We'll try and answer every question we can. Yeah, but yeah, keep it appropriate. More instructions. Okay, relationships. And like Brother Richard said, I just wanted to be open and honest in terms of this topic because it is a dynamic topic and it's one that is hard to do justice sometimes. And I'm sure you've heard so much about relationships already. Yeah? I know at this life stage, you've probably spent a lot of your own time researching and talking about this topic. But if we go back to the beginning, to me, relationships, like I'm talking about, those that are tending and leading towards marriage, right? Because that's how I see it. Anything outside of that, forget about it, right? A relationship is one where the intention is to become husband and wife, right? The only intention, that is the only framework within it applies. Anything outside that framework is a game and it's probably not going to end well. So within that context, relationships, I was thinking about the feeling. I'll talk about the excitement of relationships. So many times it's exciting, right? That's why you want it. That's why you're here. We all had that. We all have that at some point in time. You have that feeling of excitement in you about having a relationship. And that's there because God put that there, right? God put that excitement, that anticipation there in you because relationships are for His glory. They're for His purpose, right? Without relationships, there is no husband and wife. Without no husband and wife, there is no family unit. Without no family unit, eventually mankind disappears. Mankind disappears, God is not glorified. So that feeling He puts in you to want to get married, to want to be in a relationship, is for His glory, ultimately. That's why that is there. So what I want you to know is that feeling is not there as an indicator of how good or bad your relationship is going to be. Very important to note. Many times we read that feeling of excitement as relationships are awesome because I have this anticipation in me to be in one. Nope. That anticipation in you is there because God put that in you. It is the same feeling God put in you as a child not to want to be a child anymore. All of you had that feeling as a child. You didn't want to be a child. You wanted to become an adult. You were excited to become an adult. You didn't want anyone telling you what to do. And then you arrived, and how did that adulthood turn out for you? Was it equal to the excitement you had about it as a kid? No, but God put, you can correct me if I'm wrong when I hand you the mic. God put that feeling in you not to want to be a child forever. You have to grow up for Him to be glorified. You can't remain a kid forever. Doesn't mean adulthood is bad. Adulthood is fun if you put in the work, if you prepare the right way. If your prayer life, if you take your education seriously, if you take your prayer seriously, if you're hanging out with the right people. As a young man who has joined the youth group recently, who I was talking to, he's new in the church, and that's all I told him. He came to talk to me, and I said, surround yourself with the right people, right? If you want to have a fulfilling, fun, good adulthood that sort of lives up to that anticipation you had as a child, do the right things, prepare. Surround yourself with the right people. You surround yourself with the wrong crowd, you're going to end up in trouble and you'll have a lousy adulthood. Use that feeling comes in you to get into a relationship. Enter the wrong relationships, you will have a lousy relationship. Very painful. And you'll wonder why you ever had that feeling in you to want to do it. But do it the right way. Be equally yoked. Be the right person. Take the right steps to building a relationship that honors God. And that relationship shall equal or even exceed that infatuation or feeling that you had at the beginning. Point I really want to make there is that feeling of new is not an indicator of how good or bad relationships are. You have to, they're just to get you in one, but then you have to work. You have to do the right things to make sure it is a successful relationship. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense to someone. And so, I'll let that sink in as I hand over to Sister Paula to speak to you.
Praise God. First of all, I'm happy to be here. A bit intimidated. When Sister Ian asked us to talk, I've been telling my husband this life stage is the hardest life stage to talk to. I said I would rather be talking to teenagers or to married people. But you guys in between, it's not an easy place to be. I feel for you, and that's why it's hard to talk to you. So the whole time I've been thinking, stressing about it and asking Ben. I said, just as pastor, just tell me what you want to tell them, And he was like, no, you go there and you do your homework. I do my own homework. So I said, I'm just going to copy you. I'm just going to cheat off of you because I didn't know what to say. He's like, no. So I asked God, what do you want to tell these people? I asked, ultimately, you haven't heard from me and Pastor Ben. We're just oracles and vessels of God. You've come to hear from God. I hope you come to hear ultimately from God, right? So I asked God, so I've been asking God what message he wants me to relate to you guys. Naturally, he sent me to his word. So I need 3 volunteers who have their Bibles. I hope you came with your Bibles. You put them out. You came with questions and notepads, but no Bibles, eh? All the answers are in the Bible. We have one here. You, 2, one more. A lady with Sister Ray, you have your Bible? Okay, good. Okay, so the first person, we're going to the book of Song of Solomon, obviously. Yeah? Because we're talking about relationships. And there's no book in the Bible that talks more about relationships than the book of Song of Solomon. So Song of Solomon, I want you to look up chapter 2, verse 7. Brother Ronaldo, chapter 3, verse 5. And then Sister Ray, Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 4. So chapter 2, verse 7, go ahead and read for us. Chapter 3, Brother Ronaldo, verse 5.
That I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hinds of the field, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love till he please.
And then, no. And then chapter 8, verse 4. Good catch, Pastor George. Go ahead. So you see that confused look on Pastor George's face. All 3 scriptures have said the same thing. I charge you that you not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. Yeah? Don't stir up or awaken love until it pleases. 3 times it says in the Song of Solomon. The Bible tells us that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let everything be established. So this has been said 3 times. It's not a mistake that it's repeated thrice. I think God did it. I know God did it for emphasis. So what does it mean not to stir up love or to awaken love until it pleases? Essentially what these verses are telling us, because they are speaking to the daughters of Jerusalem who are young unmarried women. So they are telling the young unmarried women, don't go looking for love or forcing love or awaken love until it's time. That means God has appointed a specific time for each of us to fall in love, in true love, you know. But like Pastor Ben was saying, we have those urges in us, those feelings, those, you know, so we want love now, we want it now, we want to find it now. And our human instinct is to go out and look for it, or to force it, or to make it happen, or to, you know, because we have these urges that are driving us. But the Bible is telling us 3 times, don't awaken it until it's time. Why? Because that's how you end up in wrong relationships that traumatize you, or, you know, or you end up broken-hearted. All these heartbreak songs that we hear about, it's because people ended up in that, were forcing love where it wasn't supposed to be, or had forced love at a time when it wasn't supposed to be. So my advice and this is so hard. That's why I'm saying I feel for you people. It's for you, you have these urges, you have these feelings, you want to be in a relationship, you want to be in love, you want to experience all that goodness that God put, but then someone is telling you, you just wait. You know, just wait. That waiting is hard. But it's essential, because if you don't wait, what you end up in is worse than had you just waited. It's worse than the anxiety that you're feeling right now in waiting. The pain that you end up in when you don't wait is worse. Once you end up in wrong relationships or, you know, heartbreaks or whatever, you carry that baggage into your relationship that now God finally blesses you with the right relationship. You carry that baggage into your relationship, you know. Relationships are hard enough as it is, like, because we are flawed human beings. My husband was trying to say, we are flawed human beings. So already this is hard enough without me bringing in extra baggage from wherever I've been, and without him bringing in extra baggage from wherever he's been. Because instead of working on us, we're going to spend years unpacking this baggage, you know? And by the time we're done unpacking this baggage, we've lost sight of each other, that we don't even want to be in a relationship anymore. That's why divorce rates have tripled and quadrupled, especially in Western cultures where they date easily and they're in and out of relationships. It's because in all this dating and in all this running around, they just kept piling on baggage. By the time they settled down with someone, they had so much baggage to unpack. This relationship that they were in became, I can't do this anymore, it's a lot of work for me, let me move on to the next, you know. So before we came here, my husband was, I don't know if you want them to know this or something. So my husband was telling me, in his group of friends, it's sad, because I honestly used to think divorce was just for Americans or for, you know, Bazungu. But he was telling me in his group of friends, out of like 10 of them, only 3 are still in their first marriage. The rest are on their second marriages. And he's not an old man, he's young, we're young people. So imagine at our age, I have friends who are on their 3rd marriages. Friends my age, on their 3rd marriage. You know, so think about, marriage is a lifetime commitment, or at least it's supposed to be. So for someone to be my age and they've already done this 3 times, worn 3 wedding dresses, had 3 whole weddings, and they are somehow expecting success in this 3rd marriage, you know, what made the first 2 fail? Because of the baggage they brought in from things that they experienced when they were single, you know. So now is a time for you to guard your heart, guard yourselves, and wait on the Lord. Because when the right person comes, you want to go in it working on us, not go in it unpacking excess baggage. You understand? I hope I've made sense. Anyway, yes, that was my brief message for you in your life stage right now. I know you have a ton of questions about how to wait, or if you're in a relationship, or, you know. My husband and I are going to do our best to answer these questions from a biblical perspective. Everything we do from a biblical perspective. Because if like he was saying, if we're not doing it for the glory of God, it's not worth doing. If we're not doing it to edify God or to bring his kingdom here, it's not worth doing. And ultimately, it's not going to last and it's not going to bring us true joy. So yeah, I think...
Just remember, these youth record. So before you talk about people's...
I know, sorry. Maybe they'll find a way to...
Anyway, no, but it's all, I mean, it was a fair comment to make. And I think part of that is just, again, going back to, we want you to be sober-minded as you go into this. I think that's one of the things, one of my mission was to do that, get you sober-minded about it, understand the realities of it. Those folks who've ended up in broken marriages, they didn't go expecting that, right? They didn't expect that, they didn't want that, because every breakup is painful, is hard, right? Some of them had kids, it even makes it that much harder. There is work to be done, and there's a right way to do it, and you want to try as much as possible. You want to make sure you do it that way, the right way. I did want to say something else in relation to that. So yeah, it's just you want to, the approach that you take going into the relationship is very important, right? And so yeah. I think we'll turn it to your questions now, and we'll keep on speaking to you as we go, but if there's any questions that are out there, maybe we could take some of them now.
Yeah. Yes, we appreciate the introduction. I thought we would still hear more before we go into questions, but I think if you're ready for the questions, we would like to first have questions that are not on the papers. Yeah, because we feel like it should be more of interactive.
And we could start with this, based on what's been said. Do you have any questions based on what we shared here? Maybe we were not clear on something.
All right.
If it makes you any more comfortable, I forgot my glasses, so I can't see your faces. So please, feel free to ask.
But she knows your voices.
That's true.
Yes, praise God. Yes, from what you have said to us, there is I want you to, Sister Paula, to enlighten more about God's time.
Okay, there's a time and a place for everything. The Bible tells us that, right? The book of Ecclesiastes spends a dedicated with a time to reap, a time to sow, a time to laugh, cry, a time for everything. So, and God is a God of order. Each and every one of you, he has purposed a specific time for things to unfold in your life. It's not the same as anybody else. So, and he has not only ordered a specific time for things to unfold in your lives, but he has thought your life through. The Bible says that he sees the beginning from the end, like he sees the beginning and the end at once. He's seen your whole life and how it's supposed to unfold and how he wants it to unfold. So I believe for each and every one of you, he has a specific someone that he wants you to be with to fulfill his purposes, right? When you're supposed to meet that person and how you're supposed to end up with them, he knows exactly when. Our job is to ask him. So I'll give you an example. Before I met Pastor Ben, I was single and I had a lot of guys who were interested in me, and they would shoot their shot, as they say. But I kept saying, I don't want to end up with someone who, if it's not God's will, I don't want to end up with, so I would pray and say, God, if it's your will, let me know. If it's not, I don't want to end up with this person because I don't want to end up in a marriage that's not blessed by God. So, and I know the God that I serve is a God he goes over and above and beyond. So I said, I'm going to write a list of exactly what I want in a husband, right? And when I meet the person with every single one of these things, then I'll know this is God. Yeah, so that's what I did. So I made a list, very detailed list, very specific of everything I wanted in a husband. And I would pray and present it to God. And this sounds ridiculous until you read stories of who was it who fleeced God? Who put the fleece before God? Gideon. Yeah, when you read about Gideon doing things like that, fleecing God, like, I'm like, even me, I can put God to the test, right? So I said, this is exactly what I want in a husband. When I meet the person with these exact qualifications, then I'll know. And of course, guy after guy would come. I'm like, they don't have all of this, they don't have all of this. Anyways, one day,
Everyone wonder how crappy your list was looking at me.
No. So I met him just casually. So we started talking, and when I first met him, it wasn't with he didn't come like shooting his shot. It was just like, oh, we're just friends. But the more I talked to him and the more I got to know him, I kept being I'm not, being in a relationship with him wasn't hard. It wasn't taxing me. It wasn't stressing me out. It wasn't stressing him out either, I don't think. Right? In the beginning, I was not stressing him out. After we got married, maybe. But in the beginning, So that's how we knew this is God's time. Whenever you do something and you don't feel peace about it, or you feel you're having to fight, or you feel there's a lot of, ask yourself, is this really God's will? Because with God's will, there's peace, So I guess to know.
That's peace in the decision, not in the relationship.
Yes, in the decision.
I don't expect a flawless relationship.
No.
You're complete opposites and you will clash.
Yes, true. Yeah. So let me make that clear. Peace in the decision to be with a person, not in the relationship. Naturally, because you're two different people, you'll have fights and we didn't agree on things, and when I first met him, here's a very good example. When I first met him, he was not apostolic. He was Christian, but he wasn't apostolic. I was very apostolic, and having been raised with those apostolic doctrines, you know how you can get. So I was on him, like, I don't know what you believe, blah, 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 and I'm attacking his beliefs, So he's like, we just met. Can you calm down?
I'm their pastor and you're telling them this.
You are now apostolic, This was years ago. But so there was that contention, but still in the decision to be with him, there was peace, And
the one about peace in the decision.
Yes.
That's one thing I can relate to. What she said is her story. It's neither here nor there with me, right? But the part of having peace in the decision, that's one I can really relate to, because that's something I had as well with her. And a lot of that peace just came from the fact that she's a believer, right? A lot of my peace came from that, because that's what she had a list of 10. For me, it was really 1, the believer part. Obviously, you have to be interested in someone, but the big part was the believer part. That not equally yoked thing is not a joke. Yeah, that's where a lot of the problems start, right? So, I was a Christian. She was a Christian. That gave me a good, I was like, okay, we can work on this. Did we have differences? Absolutely. It was there, Yeah, there were fights or arguments. There were times I'm like, wow, what is going on here? But at the end of the day, there was a piece of, and when we were doing our marriage counseling, our pastor brought it home properly for me in a way I'll never forget. There's some things people say and they just stick with me forever. This is one of those things that stuck with me. When we're doing our marriage counseling, he was, the whole idea of when you're focusing on God, keeping God as your center of focus, right? So when you get married, she's here, right? And you're over here. You're two different people. But you have one belief, one focus, and that's God, right? So God is at the center, and God is always above everything. He's above every idea, thought, or decision I want to make. He's above every thought, idea, and decision she wants to make. In other words, God is always right, even if it goes according to how she feels at a certain time. And that's the way I would have liked to believe I was as well, because that's what we preach. God is always right no matter how we feel. That's why we refer to the Bible to center us. I'm here, she's here. This is in our marriage counseling. If God is there, then you're always growing towards each other, right? So that's why it's really important to get that first part right, that equally yoked, because inevitably the disagreements, the ideas, the thoughts that will be different. But if she's really intending on going that way, which is what I was looking for, someone who's intending on going there, and she showed me without a reason of doubt that she was committed to her Christianity, right? Not just being a Christian, but committed. Other than just looking at her in the moment, but her commitment. And she showed me she was committed. And I like to believe that we are, and that idea of, it's true. We have now been married 10 years, right? And so I've seen it over time, and I can attest to that growing together. I guess it's 11 this year in September, but 10 last year. So just wanted to emphasize the point that you had made about being at peace with your decision.
Does that answer your question?
Okay, it's you have elaborated more about the right pattern, you know how this person is in, and from that. But the other thing is, when should I start writing a list? That is the time I was meaning. Like,
Okay, then let me ask this. How many of you want to get married? Raise your hand if you want to get married. If you feel you're really called to be married, you want to get married, you should already have lists. You should already have lists. The minute you think you want to get married, make a list and put it before God. Because this is what Paul said. I would rather that all of you stay unmarried, but if you can't be unmarried, get married. It's better being in the in-between of, I want to get married, but I can't find someone. It's such a difficult place to be in. So you don't want to be in that place for long. So you know, for me, God didn't call me to being single. Those urges are there. I really need to get married. Write your list, present it before God. God, this is the person I want to marry, but you know what's best for me, and begin to pray about it. I have a friend who told me she has kids about my age. We gave birth like almost at the same time, and she told me, I've already started praying for my children's spouses. Imagine the kids are my kids' age, like 7, 8, she's like, I've already started praying for their spouses. So I'm like, that's super early, like why would you, She said, because I want, when the time comes, for there to be no hindrance in them finding the right person. So as soon as you know you want to get married, start to pray about it. Make your list. There's nothing ridiculous before God. Present it to Him. There's a testimony I read of a man whose wife passed away and he had kids. And he knew he couldn't stay single. God had not called him to a single life, but he had kids, he had, so he started praying like, God, I want a wife, I want a wife, I want a wife. Until one day he felt like God, I don't know if you're not hearing me, but he said he locked himself in his room and he said, God, I want a wife and I want one now. I'm going to walk out of this room and the first woman I see, I'm going to marry her because I cannot stay single. And sure enough, he got about his day. He happened to be an assistant pastor or something, but he went to church that day for something, and he saw some woman who had come in to pray, whatever. Anyway, long story short, he ended up marrying this woman. But God had his cry in that moment of, I can't stay single, and God said, okay, let me bring his wife now. So if you know you want to get married, make your list now.
Okay. Yes, maybe my last question as for now. You made a statement somewhere when you started that when the right person comes, yes? So I just want to know, does this right person comes, like now for me, I'm a man, do I pursue to the right, and a servant went and, they brought, so the question is, should I pursue, like how is God the one who brings this right person? Does this right person comes by him or herself? You know, I just want to know, as in how the right person comes.
So I'm going to ask my husband we're going to answer this question together. I'm going to answer on the girl's part. I'm going to answer on the boy's part because there are different roles that we're required to play, right? So he's asking from a guy's perspective. You want me to go first? Like, I know what I'm going to tell the girls. For the girls, I will tell them, don't pursue, wait, right? God did not call us to be hunters. He did not. God did not call us to be hunters, women, okay? When God created Adam, he created him and then he created everything else. Then he's like, okay, Adam is lonely, I need to create for him someone. So he creates Eve. And he brings Adam and he shows him Eve. And the first thing Adam says when he sees Eve, what did Adam say? First thing he said when he saw Eve. Whoa. Exactly. Remember, Adam had named all the creatures in Eden. So he knew what all the animals looked at. He had seen all of the beautiful plants, all the while. But when he sees Eve, he's like, wow, like, I don't know what the specific, but she's like, she is beautiful. Like, now this is, So God made women to be creatures of beauty, to be desired, to be sought after, not to be out there dirtying yourself hunting. So don't hunt women. You're too precious for that. You're too precious for that. You stay and wait, and God will bring the right person to you. Diamonds, jewels, rubies, all these precious things, they're not out there showing themselves being, They are hunted for, they are looked for, because they know their value, they know their worth. Don't devalue yourself by putting yourself out there and trying to, if I know Kunda, but otherwise, how will they know I'm single? No. So that's for girls. Boys?
I have a question on that very critical point. Mm-hmm. From the girl's perspective, just like we've spoken, what is your belief on the concept or idea of kwetega? You all know what I'm talking about, all right? When Pastor Ben, do you understand what kwetega is? A sure thing, all right. In other words, low-key, by the way, for a Christian lady, not like going out there, for the man, but I'm the lady, I have seen this wonderful gentleman, and I want to make my hair, I want to give them a lot of time, be available. What is your concept on that? I mean, you would know better, the entire kwetega idea in the ladies' world.
All right. Maybe I'll answer, because that's also from a man's perspective, right? The idea that you don't want to do all the work. Let them also give you a hint if they're interested, all right? That's where you're coming from. Yeah?
I think my husband has answered it. I think that kwetega was born out of necessity. Because the reality is our brothers are a bit, I don't know, but like you can like someone and he might have interest, but man, the guy, I don't know, it takes him a while to get it. So somehow the women feel like I need to give this guy a hint. Maybe he's not understanding that, hey, I'm also interested. You know what I mean? So I think that kwetega was born out of that necessity of these guys are either not, I don't know, their eyes are not open, I don't know what. But I honestly do not think it is necessary. I honestly do not think it is necessary, especially in a godly, especially in a godly context. Out there in the world, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame, but in a godly context, I don't think it's necessary. Because if you're both at a point where you're ready for marriage, then already your eyes are both open, right? So if you are presenting yourself, women, as godly women, you're seeking God, you're trusting him to bring the right person, and there's a godly man out there and he's also looking for someone, if he doesn't see you, he's not for you. Don't go out of your way to make him see you. You know? Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I feel your pain. Yeah, you'd, you'd like it to be easier for you. Yeah, well, that's not the way it is. But I'd say this, and I'm going to talk. I was trying to think of real examples that I've seen. Right, I was trying to think of real life examples that I've seen. Because one thing I did when I was single was I was part of many. What they used to be like singles groups. I was part of singles groups and age groups. So I was part of multiple of them where we were single people in our 20s in groups. Right, so I did a lot of that, and so I saw a lot of things unfolding in there. People stay in those groups for longer than they wanted to stay and get frustrated. I saw people, getting married, finding partners in those groups a number of times. It can be a bit complicated. And I think you have to do it in a safe and smart way, especially if you're within a group, right? Like one real case I saw was literally someone came and asked. Let me try and remember the story properly. But there was a girl, right, and there was a guy, single. Someone had talked to the girl and found out maybe she was interested in the guy or something like that, and somehow the message came to him, and basically they told him, if you ask her out, she will say yes. Right? So it was safe. He didn't have to be awkward, right? Because one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to be a nuisance guy. Don't be a nuisance guy, the guy who's disturbing every girl. Don't do that. That I would say, don't be that. Yeah? Don't be that. So in this particular case, he wasn't that, but he went knowing for sure. Because as much as they won't Kwetega and they've been advised not to Kwetega, they know who they like. Right? Am I right, girls? You know who you like, you know who you don't. I'll ask you, I won't put them on the spot. You know who you like and who you don't like, right? You knew it, right? And so, as much as you're supposed to hunt, it's actually not really hunting, because the prey wants to be hunted. So, don't go hunting for prey that has not sent you a signal that it wants to be hunted. Does that make sense? Only go hunting in a place where there has been a clear signal sent to you. Come and hunt, right? It's the same way when you're proposing. I don't know why. There are viral videos. They're normally fake. People go and do proposals, and the woman says no. Those are normally fake, because by the time someone proposes, you know the answer. You've been talking about it forever. So that whole proposal, you don't propose unless you're 100% sure it's a yes. Please don't ever do that. Propose when you don't know that it's a yes or no. So in the same way, right? Especially because we want you to, if you're in a group of friends, you don't want to make it awkward by, again, being a nuisance or going where you're unsure. You will be sure. I think you will know. You will know. To bring it home closer, when when we first met, like she said, we just met and talked. And the next time I communicated back to her, I was sure she wanted to talk to me again. I did my research and made sure that she wanted to talk. Because, I'll be honest with you, it's not my personality, and I just wasn't that kind of person who is going to run around knocking when I'm not sure, right? I wasn't going to do that. You don't have to know. I don't know your list, you don't have to know my research.
Yeah, I think if you're in group settings, you're hanging out with people, you're friends with people, guys, you can sort of know which girl gives you the time of day and which one doesn't, right? So while it is hunting, like he's saying, it's really hunting prey that wants to be, but it's up to you to, I guess, to move the relationship further along. So, okay, I've been friends with this person, she seems to like me, she seems really nice, she's, now the next step is finding out, hey, are you really interested in getting to know me more? And, it's up to you men to progress the relationship, is what I was calling hunting. I hope that answers your question.
More questions?
Praise
Uh,
God.
well,
There's a story that is interesting in the Bible, in the book of Ruth. We see Ruth followed Naomi even after everything had happened, every loss. When they went back home, Ruth followed Naomi. So, Ruth chapter 3, from verse 1. Then mother-in-law to her. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens wast thou? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will let thee what thou shalt do. And she said unto her, All that thou sayest unto me, I will do. And she went down unto the floor, and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly, and uncovered his feet, and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast shewed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as not young men, whether poor nor rich. To cut the long story short, Boaz marries Ruth. Okote kwali kwetega.
And here's why. So Ruth is following the instructions of her mother-in-law. Someone here mentioned Isaac, who just sat and they went and looked for a wife. Again, not on his own doing. It was his father who sent the servant to go and find There is something to be said, and sadly, our culture and the modernization of times, we have lost it. But there's something to be said about the wisdom of those who are older than us, the wisdom of elderly. That's why back in the days, they used to have arranged marriages. I honestly am a proponent of arranged marriages because there's a lot of wisdom to be found in those older than us. Her mother-in-law, with all her wisdom, knowing Boaz's family, I mean, tell me if that's not an arranged marriage. Your mother comes to you, I know this man, I know his family, I know you're going to marry. That's pretty much an arranged marriage. So her mother-in-law comes out, I know his family, I know this man, I know, she pretty much knew this man will marry you. I don't think Naomi would have sent Ruth there if she was not convinced that Boaz would end up marrying Ruth. And Naomi knew Ruth well enough to know Ruth is going to make a good wife for Boaz. So that was more of a setup. Ruth didn't take herself there. That's why I don't think it's kwetega. She was following the instructions of her mother-in-law. She said, whatever you instruct me to do, I will do. And it worked out in her favor. When your elders speak into your life and they tell you, I have someone I want you to meet. I think they're from a good family. I know that person and I know you. I would encourage you to give them a chance. Listen to them. Some of us may be like, my mother, what does she know? Like, my father, this one has no taste. Honestly, give them a chance. There's something these older people know, and they've been in marriage. They know what it takes to make a relationship work, to make a marriage work. There's something, Naomi knew what it takes to make a marriage work, to, to leave a legacy. And she saw Boaz and Ruth, they can do it. And she sent her there. Same thing with Isaac. Isaac was like, Abraham, if I leave it up to Isaac, he's going to find out. Let me go and get a wife that I know where she's from. I know her people, I know. So you go and do such and such and bring, That was a setup or a hookup. I don't think it was Kwetega.
Doesn't know God.
Yes, very good question. So, even though your parent doesn't know God, I would say, meet the person. See what it is about that person that your mom or your dad thinks would, just give them a chance. So that way you can at least honor your mom or your dad in saying, you know what, mommy, daddy, I gave it a shot. Don't shoot them down immediately. Don't be like, at least, so in doing so, at least you've honored their request, at least you've honored them, and you can say, hey, I met the person, and yes, they're like this, but our values don't line up.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, Pastor Ben and Sister Paula, for gracing this. And I must say we are blessed to have you as our pastor. Yeah. So mine is in relation to me. Like it is, yes. So for some of us that have hit a certain floor, there is a question that constantly comes our way. So they say, well, what's a D? Yes. So I wanted to ask this: is there like the right time? Could it be that I have skipped the time? Is it that is there like a definite time that at this at this age, if you're past that time, then there is something, Yeah, that's my question. Yeah.
I mean, the simple answer there is no. There's no specific age, right? There's no specific age, or time for that matter. I don't believe.
So culture, society has agreed that there's a specific way in which we're supposed to live our lives. You go to school, you primary, you go to secondary, you go to university, you marry, they've just put those things there. But those are man-made.
School was not always there.
Yeah,
right?
Those are all man-made things. So there's no specific time. Like I said, there's a time for everything, but God purposes that time, not man, not society, not culture. God purposes that time. So for you, your time might be different from others, I don't know, how many of you remember Brother and Sister Roya? You remember them? So, yeah, so that's a very good example. Sister Roya did not meet Brother, they didn't get married until she was, I want to say 50, she was in her 50s when she married Brother Roya. So yeah, imagine all the way till her 50s. And for a woman, you think it's hard for a man. For a woman, when you reach a certain age, it's like, Orikuchi, they start looking at you like, what's wrong with you? So imagine she had to endure all that, like, what's really wrong with you? Why aren't you married? Why aren't you married? Till her 50s, until God finally brought the person that was meant for her, So there's don't let...
People here are getting worried, man.
No. It's not, I know, like people say, it's not my portion. No, it's not your portion. But don't let people wear you down or society or culture stress you out. You tell them, I'll get married when it's God's timing. In God, the Bible says he makes all things beautiful in his time. So when it's your time, he will bring that person and it will be beautiful and everyone will be like, yes, this person was worth the wait.
Thank you very much. So they should stop the questions, I think.
Yeah.
Questions? Yes.
Praise God. So, I just want to ask Sister Ishta, no, Sister Paula. So, you've actually said there is no age or something. So, are you sure that anyone can marry? Or
Honestly, I would, and I think this is why a lot of churches do it this way. The younger you are, the better, because those urges that Paul was talking about will lead you into sin. So as long as you have those urges, and we all know the urges I'm talking about, I don't want to get graphic, but as long as you have those urges, then you're ripe for marriage.
then another question is that, okay, some people see life partners maybe, or when they have money. Sometimes it's about true love. Then I'm saying, can one go for money, or they should really be like true lovers?
So,
Question is money or love?
I know. Sadly, the world that we live in is a very materialistic world, and we all need money to survive. Yeah. So, placing money and love, I can't say you have to pick between the two. But I'm saying, a young couple with no money can get married and make money together. This thing of let me wait till I have money before I get married. What if you never get money? So you're going to be burning in your desires forever. God forbid. But what if you never make it that, you know? And there was a rich man who said, do you know how much money it takes someone to be happy? Just $1 more. Like no matter how much money you have, you always feel I don't have enough. So if you're constantly like, no, I'm waiting till I have enough money to get married, you'll never have enough. So you, but
another angle to that, I guess, is you want to look. I think around the way of should you marry someone for love or for money, right? What Sister Paula is saying is you don't marry for money, but you look at the traits of someone. Is this person a worker? Is this person, does he have the discipline? Does he understand what it takes to be a man as a
like
provider?
what if he has money naenga ya ziba? Then it all
Yeah.
disappears.
It's a
Then the
rich
man
beast,
doesn't know how to make money ever again, and you live in poverty the rest of your lives. But then you see someone, he doesn't have money now, but he's a hard worker, he's determined, he's focused, he knows where he's going. You know, eventually, this guy will make money. So let me give him a chance, you know.
Young. If you're
Yes.
young, there's not going to be money, right? But what someone can see is the traits of someone who will be able to provide, someone who's working towards something, right? That's what you want to look for. If someone is always sitting at home playing cards, that's not the person you want to be hitching your
Wagon to.
wagon to, yeah, so to speak. Yeah.
Thank you.
But he had a very good question there about love. True love. You talked about true love. Sister Paula, can you clarify for us what is true love?
What is true love?
What is true love?
True love is that which is ordained of God, and that's what's blessed of God and ordained of God. So he's signed off on it. If God hasn't okayed it, it's not true love. If God hasn't given you his blessing, it's not true love, right? So if you're in a relationship and, okay, he might be a Christian and whatnot, but you feel some uncertainty, like, I don't really feel like this is where I'm supposed to be, or, you know, there's some questions about it. God hasn't blessed it, so that's not your true love. But I think that's yeah, if God has blessed it and He has okayed it, it's true love.
And and love manifests itself later. I think that's what I've
Yes.
realized. Right? That thing you feel early on,
That's not
infatuation.
love. That's
You just
infatuation.
like the way she
That's
looks.
lust.
That's lust. I mean,
don't
sometimes it
know.
definitely is lust. True love typically manifests itself later. And there was a pastor he was like, why should you get married? Why should people get married? No, he was asking, what makes a marriage successful? What makes a marriage successful? And then everyone always say things like, love, money. This is like, money, no. Love, no. Because he made a joke, as soon as you cut that wedding cake, in the Western world, they talk about butterflies in the stomach. You guys feel butterflies? I never felt butterflies. But women say they feel butterflies in their stomach when they like someone. Yeah, I've seen people who have felt it. But he said as soon as you cut that wedding cake, those butterflies disappear. They fly out and reality hits and you look at the person and you just want to slap them. Right? So what makes a marriage successful? And you know what his answer was? Commitment. Commitment. What makes a marriage successful is that you say, okay, it's you and me, no matter what. Things are going to happen, the butterflies are going to go. Sometimes there will be no money, but we are committed.
That's why it's important for you to have God in the middle. You know, they talk about that three-stranded cord that can't easily be broken. The third cord is God. If you don't have God in your relationship, any relationship, it's not going to last. No matter how much you think you love this person, your love alone can't sustain the relationship.
Praise God. Thank you for coming. Thank you for honoring our invitation. Yes. So quickly, I'll go back to Brother Lawrence's question when he asked, you told him that when you have the urges, then you know it's time to get married. But we've had urges ever since we were 15 years. Yes. Okay. Yes. Does that mean that it is already time to get married because I have this urge? We've seen people who are 12 years and yes.
Good question.
Can I kindly add on that question?
Yeah.
How young is too young to start a relationship?
So, good question. I would say, it takes a lot more than love, like we've said, to sustain a marriage, to build a marriage, right? So, yes, I should have been, as long as you have those urges, you're ready for marriage, but that doesn't mean you should jump into marriage, because there's a whole living and cleaving associated with being married, right? You leave your father and your mother and you cleave to someone else. So you also have to be at a life stage where you're able to do that. At 15, you can't. You're still technically a minor. I mean, there are laws. I don't know what the age of consent here. It's 18, see? You can't even legally get married in 18. So you have to at least abide by the law of the land. I know in some states in America it's as young as 16. So there are 16-year-olds who do go ahead and get married. So there's that to consider. Can I realistically leave my parents and cleave and we abide lawfully as husband and wife? You know, so if you can't, then that's too young. But if you can, honestly, 18, I think you can get married. And I have friends who got married at 18 and they have kids who are grown and they're living their best lives because they had kids early, man, they're enjoying. Those of us who are just starting now.
But it is a complex question, yeah? What was yours, Pastor George? I felt...
How young is too young?
Yours was higher. Oh yeah, I mean, to yours is whenever you're ready to get married. Remember, dating, relationships are all about getting married. So at a stage when you're ready and you think you can work towards getting married, go ahead, right? And that varies from person to person. Just talked about, especially like in the US, there are many communities that we were with where as soon as they're done with high school, the next thing is marriage, right? They go, they get a job, right? And then they find a wife, they get married. That's very common, especially in Christian circles. But that's not common in our culture. In our culture, you know, first go and, you know, Many times you're going to university and no one wants you to get married when you're still in school, especially for the boys. You have to wait till you're done, right? Then you get a job. It might take a while. I don't know. Traditionally, I find for us around mid-20s is where the pressure starts. That's why when maybe you start to get some questions about it, and they give, and it varies with men and women. So in terms of the urges, one thing that's guaranteed is it would be foolish and unwise as soon as they come to jump in, right? Because of what she said. First of all, who you are cleaving to, right? That is, again, things I remember over time. I was told by someone, there's two most important decisions you ever make in your life. Number one, the decision to follow Jesus Christ. Number two, who you'll marry. Don't take any of those decisions lightly. You can't just run into a relationship. You make the wrong decision with the wrong person. What do they say? Hell hath no fury like what? Like a woman's comb. But if you get a woman who is just going to decide to make your life miserable, it will be miserable, and vice versa. I can tell you this, I don't think there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the pain of a relationship is probably worse than any pain of a single person. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, the relationships can cause you an amount of pain that's impossible when you're single. So when you rush into a relationship, thinking just because you have the urge, you will get burned even more than the burning desire you feel, that urge that you feel. So it's not a decision to be taken lightly. It's the second most important decision you're going to make, the partner who you're going to live with forever. The person, remember, it's a commitment. Yeah? Marriage is made successful by commitment. So when you're getting married, you're trying to commit to someone. If you're committing to the wrong person, my friend, it's going to be misery. In all seriousness, it's going to be misery. You rather deal with the urges for a little while, have healthy groups like this, right? This is how I survived, by the way, through my whole, this age group of this. I've told you, my experience, I was in single groups, right? Friday night, we would go, and even for a while, when we were dating, she would come and we'd go to a single groups and just hang out on Friday nights with other single people. And, you know, if there's a youth group, I'm part of it. You know, you're just part of those. As you're looking around, you at least have those to kind of keep you in check. Every human being, you have to keep yourself in check. Those urges, you can keep them in check. Don't let them run riot by, again, being in God's things as you're working towards God's calling in marriage. I hope that makes sense.
Direction, basically. We've talked about when the urges come, but I want to be careful here, because let me say some of us have been in multiple relationships because the urges came for one person at one time, and then you felt like they were the right person, and then you pursued. And then later you feel like, I don't belong here. So the urges come for now a different person, and you pursue. And then you're like, okay, I also don't belong here. And now you are struggling with urges for another person, like a third person now. Is there a way?
Okay, so what you're talking about now is in line with this question. It's pretty much the same answer. I'm going to read this question, then I'm going to address these questions. So this question says, how are you supposed to behave as a Christian in a relationship? Is it right you act and behave like married people because you know you're going to end up together? For example, showing romantic affection in public. So your urges come, you pursue someone. I assume in pursuing them, you're showing this romantic affection, right? Because you're with this person and you think this is it. That is where the trouble starts. In dating or in pursuing someone, when you blur the lines between dating and marriage, right? So to blatantly answer this question, no, it's not okay for you to act like you're married, because the fact is you're not married. You know, there are some things that are saved only for marriage, and one of those is physical intimacy or any type of physical show of affection, actually. I would go as far, so you have to set boundaries in your dating so that you avoid that whole now I thought this one, now this is not it, we're breaking up, and now I'm with this one now. But every time you're breaking, it's almost like you're leaving a piece of yourself with this person because you've gotten so involved with them. When you set boundaries, that doesn't happen, because within these boundaries, I'm just getting to know you, to see where it could go, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. There's nothing, there are no strings that need to be cut if it doesn't work out, right? So you protect yourself physically by not getting physically involved, physically intimate with someone. So things like kissing and even hand holding is a very intimate act. Small things like that we think, we take for granted, but holding someone's hand is a very intimate act, you know? And so you protect yourself physically and also spiritually. So, okay, we are Christians, we are dating, you know, let's pray together every week. Hey, you know, praying with someone is a very intimate thing. You're opening your soul up to someone. It's as good as opening your body up to someone. So you're meeting, you know, brother and sister, just the two of you, to pray together every week. You're creating a bond, a soul tie. And if that relationship doesn't work out, this soul tie remains, that needs to be severed in the spirit. You know, I don't know if you guys know anything about soul ties. Maybe that's another discussion for another day, but we have to be careful the bonds that we are creating with these people that we are dating. So that's why we set boundaries. We go on dates. First of all, don't be in places just the two of you, you know. Go out to public places. If you go out with a chaperone, make sure that in the whole entire dating process, I'm just getting to know the person. I'm just getting to know the person to see if we are aligned value-wise and if we both want to end up in the same place. Because if you're getting to know someone and you find we're not aligned value-wise,